I'm not sure how well this is going to show up, but on this reground valve we have a slight lip which is done to atomize fuel to help the motorcycle be easier to start. But watching Uncle Tony's Garage, you can get a slight performance improvement by just taking that lip off, and you'll get better airflow through the port, through the valve, less tumbling of the mixture off there, less atomization. Might be harder starting, but we will get a better performance. So what we're going to do is put this into a drill and just take off that slight edge there with a file. Okay, and I think we've done it. We do have a little bit of schmutz down there. And I can't feel a lip. Oh, just give it a little bit more. Well, there's much less of a lip there. I'm at peace with that. Okay, this is the standard cam out of the Lifan, and now this is the 00 racing cam, which arrived within 7 days, ordered from the UK. To the eye, we can see that the opening face looks slightly larger, but I don't know how to measure that. Slightly bigger profile than the, see if we can see that in comparison, than the stock cam. But importantly, in terms of the lift of the cam, we've got 1.11 on the verniers, higher lift on the inlet, and 1.54 millimeters, and that's the movement that the valve's going to be opened, greater than the stock camshaft. They do look a little bit different, but they do both fit into the same head. As a comparison here, I have a camshaft from the bigger Lifan 150, 140 and 160 series of engines. These camshafts, the bodies do look very, very similar, but it's, of course, it's the bearings that mount into the engine that are different. As we can see, we've got 3 mounting points for the cam drive gear there. So what will be... Okay, so we're going to lubricate the valve stems. Put a little bit of lube on the bottom of them as well. We've got new seals in there. Alright, this is a valve stem installer tool. We'll see if we can... Now these are supposed to be installed with the tapered side facing down according to the manual, but I can't really see any difference in these. Maybe slightly that way, but we'll give that a go. Make sure that's on the seat. There's a little steel washer that goes underneath the valve spring. Can't see a taper really here. That looks symmetrical, so we'll put that in. And then we'll place the retainer on there. Try and get that all lined up. Then the tricky bit, we'll get the collets and see if we can edge them into position. Okay, so we've got them sort of pre-positioned. Now we'll place this over this valve stem with that rubber block in the bottom, and this installer tool, which are cheap online. This one has spring loaded here that presses on the collets, and you only need hand pressure to do this. Get it lined up over the valve. Okay, we can see the valve stem head there. Now it's a matter of compressing this. Just get that all the way down in there. Have to put a bit of muscle into this one. Okay, so we hear a bit of a click, but we're still not in. Come on now. Okay, so now we can see the valve stem is sitting proud of the collets. What they recommend to do now is tap the valve with a plastic hammer without having the valve being interfering with the in any way, just to seat that inlet valve. But what we'll do before that is we'll install the exhaust. So we're pre-positioned here. Snug that over the valve stem. See if we can give you a better idea this time. Okay. I need to turn this around so I can get better mechanical advantage on it. Hear that double click if that came through, and once again we're sitting. Next step is installing our racing camshaft. A little bit of lubricating oil. Just to make sure we get a good start on it. Fitting that home. Now point the to be a top dead center. This is going to be vertical because the plate lines up with the timing mark vertically there on those bolt holes. These will be Loctited in this build because that's how I got my nickname, the All Thumbs Bum. So that means at top dead center both lobes will be facing downwards. Now we can install the rocker arms just loosely. These are pretty much symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which way you go. Now this is an interesting part. It's a shim plate. I can't see what this spring's for, but it's not mentioned in the manual, so that goes in between the rocker and the head just to stop that from floating. So we'll line up the shim plate first. It's actually got an eccentric hole on that side. So now we'll just push the pivots home, and I did oil those, though you won't see it. Now some people wonder what holds these rocker pivots in place, and simply put, when the head bolts go through there, they go to either end of the rocker pivot. So that stops the pivot from moving around. Fairly elementary design. The next thing we've got to do is check the valve clearances. So we've got a 0.3, a very worn 0.3 feeler, and it won't go in there, so we need to undo that. Just probably got fingers in the way now. You just want a tight sliding fit. Okay, so we've got 0.3 for inlet and exhaust, which is interesting. Normally you have a larger clearance on the exhaust because it gets hotter, so we'll monitor that pretty carefully. The final part of the installation will be, well, not the final part. Next step in the installation will be the gasket. You can see there's an oil feed there to the camshaft, or from the camshaft. I couldn't tell you which way it really goes. I know the oil comes up through one of these long studs It's the high pressure feed to the head. I think that'll be there. I don't know how well that'll show up, but we'll go over that later. Go from there. But basically, once that's on, rocker covers go on, new O-rings for those new gaskets here. The next step will be putting the cylinder head onto the barrel and checking the timing. Because we've got a high lift cam and we've got a high compression piston, we'll be using some plasticine to measure the valve clearances to the valve piston clearance. But at the moment we're sort of roughed out there. We'll check that again, and of course we've got to lock up these nuts. But yeah, that's your cylinder head assembly for the Lifan 125cc engine. Cheers. Remember, thumbs up for the all thumbs bum. It helps me out heaps, so